How's everybody doing? My name is Kurt Friedrich and I'm the owner-driver for CFRacing, and welcome to our February monthly update racing video. First off, I want to thank our sponsors, Tubi Gyms, for their continued support. Tubi Gyms is an online jewelry sales store that sells basically crafts and supplies for do-it-yourselfers who are wanting to set their own gemstones and settings and create some of their own projects. Also, disclaimer, we will have some background noise with some kids playing around, throwing some balls around, or two boys outside playing. Weather's nice out here on a February North Carolina day. If we didn't let them come out here with us, they'd be crying inside, so in the background we could either have some sound of some kids crying because they can't come out here and play, or some kids playing, and I'd rather have the sound of some kids playing in the background. So with all that being said, we'll go ahead and start hitting some notes. Actually, we'll put the notes aside for a second because we're going to start off with talking about the trailer, and I'm just going to kind of go off script with the trailer a little bit. Don't really have any notes of what we've done, just going to talk about it. So, a few things that we have accomplished on the trailer and are working on the trailer. So this is done. I spoke about this in the last video. These are some red strips that I painted here on the ramp going into the trailer. These are kind of going to use them as guide strips because the inside of the trailer, the width of it is a really tight fit for the width of the go-kart. So it's been a real challenge trying to get the go-kart into the trailer and steering it in straight. So hopefully with these guide strips, I can kind of line a tire up either on the left side, center, or right side of it, and help guide the go-kart in the trailer without having to scrape it up against the bolts sticking out here, or the wood, or whatever else. Another thing that we have been using for this gap right here, you see my hand will fit in this gap right here. So we have been using some 2x4s to kind of help the cart buggy get over the gap. Instead of using those, we will now use this piece of wood that I cut out and painted up. And now it's just going to go sit right there in this gap, and will help with getting the buggy, go-kart buggy, out of the trailer and then back into it. There I am banging it up already. So also, watch out, Ty. Hey, you two kids, go back over there and play. Almost hit Tad in the back. So this door is pretty sturdy, but to make it a little bit more sturdy, we're going to put a cross section on the back right here. You can see the holes already drilled, and there's one right here, and just the second one is right there, and basically, I've already started painting on it, so I'm hoping to get another coat of paint on it today. And basically, it's just going to go, this is the back side. And set up there, just like that. And of course, the other one going right across. So that's kind of a safety improvement we're trying to make, or maybe not necessarily a safety improvement, just trying to make the back door a little bit stronger. And then, the safety part will be the head of the bolts will be on the flat surface of the ramp. So if it ever gets wet, our feet can grip on those head bolts and not make it as slick as it would be without it. So yeah, about that cross section is a project we're currently working on the trailer. So that being said, we'll go ahead and move over here to the chassis and start talking about some of the things we've completed working on the chassis and are currently working on. So we'll go ahead and start talking about the brake system. I have drained all the brake fluid out of the brake system. We have removed the brake lines. We've removed the safety wire from the brake rotor bolts. We have removed and cleaned the brake rotor hub. and removed and cleaned the brake disc. So those are now ready to bolt back on once we get the axle squared away, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. Currently working on I've sanded and have painted the upright post. Needs a couple more coats. Really looking forward to getting this done, because once we can bolt that back on, we can start bolting some other pieces on. We have completed painting the steering yoke, so that's ready to bolt back on. That will go on top of this upright post, so that's one of the things waiting on with that. We're also replacing the lower steering rod. We're not going to call this installed yet, because as I said in years past, I don't consider something installed until, even though it's bolted to the chassis, one, it's not tight because it needs to be set, and it also needs the steering shaft bolted to it. So once the steering shaft is bolted to it, then we'll lock down the jam nut. We'll consider that installed. So that's an upcoming project. I've sanded the steering shaft, and it's already got one coat of paint on it. This side has been painted its final coat, and I got one more coat to put on this side, and then the steering shaft will be ready to install. We've cleaned the fairing rod, so that's ready to install once we get the steering shaft on. Also, the AccuTow steering block, the AccuTow steering lock, the steering wheel hub, steering wheel, and the tachometer bracket. All those have been cleaned and ready to bolt back on once we get this upright post completed, the steering shaft completed, and bolted back on. Oh yeah, also side note, been dealing with some congestion and coughing and stuff for the past week, so I did take a shot of some Dayquil and before taking this video, so hopefully it'll keep me from coughing and sniffling too much. But if you hear me sniffling and coughing, I'm just working through it. We also got the tie rod ends replaced, lubed and installed. I can't remember if I already had this. Yeah, I think I did have the steering knuckles and the hubs installed in the last video. But we're still waiting for the steering shaft to be installed to finish installing the tie rod ends and tie rods. So that's pretty much what we got for the chassis. Now we'll move on to the drivetrain. First we'll talk about the rear axle. So this is another big thing that needs to be completed to start installing a bunch of other items. We've cleaned and sanded the rear axle. I've already got one coat on one side and just waiting for one coat on the other side. We're only going to put one coat on the steering axle. The main reason for putting a coat on it is over time getting washed in dirt and stuff, it accelerates rust on the steering axle. So I just like to put one nice coat on the steering axle to help prevent rust and dirt buildup. But pretty much after a season, all that paint is going to get knocked off anyhow. Plus, if it's a thick coat, it kind of makes it harder to install some of the hubs that go on the steering axle. So I just like to get one coat on it to try and prevent rust. On the back, we've already cleaned the cassette bases, removed and cleaned the cassette pills, reinstalled the cassette pills. You can't see them here through that shot because they're kind of hidden inside the chassis. And installed the cassette pills and installed the lower cassette bases. Also have cleaned and now soaking. I put the chain, cleaned the chain and put it in. This is actually 5W30 motor oil. It's what I had to use with. Probably really supposed to use some sort of chain oil to soak it in. But basically I just sit it in there after cleaning, keep it from rusting, and allow some of that oil to soak into the chain. So when we install it, it's pretty well lubed up and prevent rust. And also I like to take a torch to it and heat it up because, you know, hotter oil is thinner oil and gets in tighter places a whole lot easier. Alright, moving on. We've cleaned the axle lock collar. This goes on right next to the right rear hub to help the right rear hub from moving around. We're replacing the axle bearings, so we've replaced these and put a little bit extra lube in there. This is the lube ring, or not lube ring, the axle. Hold on, I'm getting my terminology messed up. Yeah, lube ring. So we cleaned that up and got the bearings installed in there. And so these bearings are already installed onto the axle once the axle is cleaned up. What else we got here? Yeah, we cleaned the rear gear guard. We've got the rear gear hub cleaned up. And the rear axle, or not rear axles, the rear hubs, we've got those cleaned up and the bolts installed. So yeah, once we get the rear axle finished painted, we're ready to install those pieces back onto the rear axle and install the rear axle onto the go-kart. And then once we get that done, we can set the toe and the front end and start installing other pieces onto the chassis. Last piece that we've got cleaned up is for the seat. We've gotten the seat slides cleaned up and basically got those ready to bolt on. So that's pretty much what we have completed here on the chassis. So you see that we've got some working projects and things moving forward. Hopefully to have a little bit more update on the next video. Also just want to touch base real quick on kind of a state of operations. Usually I talk about in the January video, but to follow up on this video, I talked about how I moved away from real estate, and now we're not using our real estate as our primary sponsor, but with the new job search, I've actually landed a job with my Army Reserve unit in Fort Lee, Virginia, civilian position. So we're getting ready to pack all this stuff up and start moving. I'll be going up there a few weeks early and start looking for a home to either rent out or a home to buy, preferably buy. Maybe living out of the barracks or hotel or something for a few weeks, not really sure, but I may just be bringing parts and pieces up there with me that I can clean or sand and get ready to paint. That way when I come home on the weekends, I can work on painting those pieces and installing some of them onto the go-kart. So not sure if we're going to do an update video in March. We'll just kind of have to see how things are going. But again, like I said, you see some of the projects we're working on, some of the upcoming projects, some of the stuff coming up with the state of operations. Again, if anybody is interested in helping support our race team, we are looking for a primary sponsor. Reach out to us and I can start talking about the details with you on how we operate with sponsorship. But again, I want to state it as previous videos. If you're a sponsor of the team, you are a member of the team. So we do want sponsors who will be also actively engaged in our operation and enjoying the fun that we have with this racing. We are looking for some additional help. So as always, so if anybody's interested in get some hands-on and learning experience and just enjoy turning wrenches and doing some work like this, reach out to us and let us know. But with that being said, I do want to say a special thanks to my friend Lynn Beck. He has been coming over here. He's helped with the work that we've been doing on the trailer. He's also helped with installing the parts on this go-kart. In fact, I don't think I installed a single piece on this go-kart except for maybe I think I installed the steering blocks. Everything else he put on this go-kart. So definitely wanted to send a special thanks to my friend Lynn Beck for his help. And see, I talked about sponsorships needed, help needed. And last but not least, I want to say thanks to my wife Malou for filming this video and her continued help. So again, we got a lot of work to do. Hopefully still be racing by summertime. We'll search out some tracks in the Virginia area to race at. And yeah, hopefully next month we will have another update video and talk and show some more stuff. If not, we'll definitely have something in April with updates of what we have going on. So until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.